Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today we are talking about Celtic 1, Rangers 0. It's half time in the Glasgow derby. Celtic a goal to the good. It's the man, Paulo Bernardo. We were talking about him at the beginning of the match. We were talking about the fact that the dress rehearsal lasted 180 minutes against Livingston and Dundee for Bernardo. This was the biggest game of his career, and he has stepped up in style. Three chances in the first half. He scores the third one. What a goal. What a strike by Bernardo. Phenomenal goal. And I'll tell you, it actually followed up after 10 minutes, I think, of Celtic. Offensive play, brilliant work-up play, build-up play to that goal. So Bernardo gets on the score sheet. We're going to be talking around his performance and some of the other performances in that first half as well. Joe Hart has made two excellent saves, but we shouldn't really be letting them back into it at that stage. It looked as though we were a little bit rattled after Stephen Welsh went off injured. It's maybe understandable. Rangers came back into the game. We started getting a bit sloppy with the passing, and we needed Joe Hart to step up, and he did that. He stepped up. He made the two saves from Cantwell and McCausland. And I think Celtic then weathered the storm, got back into their groove, and started to create again from deep in their own, totally controlled really, other than that small pocket that Rangers got after Welsh dislocated his shoulder. It looks like a dislocation. In any case, the big man comes on, Nawrocki. We were talking about the importance of trying to keep people fresh and match fit and sharp and also happy mentally, so that when you need to call upon them, they are ready. And we had to call upon Nawrocki, didn't we? And in he comes as well. That was 34 minutes into the first half. The big man has looked pretty assured. I mean, I counted one tackle, very solid, which is what you want, 40 minutes into the game. He's very comfortable with his foot on the ball, looking up, playing short and long passes, good range of distribution, Nawrocki. So, we were talking about our concerns about the two centre-halves we had brought in Nawrocki and Lagerbielke, £7.3 million for the two of them. And, it looked after today's starting 11 was named that Lagerbielke would be leaving the building. What did that mean for Nawrocki? Well, it starts today, doesn't it? It starts today. His resurrection could start today. And often that's the way it goes in football. Someone breaks down, gets injured, is suspended. You get the call, you step up, and you've got to take it. And obviously all the onus is now on the big man to do that. I think Maeda's played a role today in the last couple of games. I know he came on as a sub against Hearts, and then Livy and Dundee, he wasn't as involved as you would expect from Dyson Maeda. But, I was expecting him on the left-hand side. Rodgers has gone for Maeda on the right. And I think what he's done is he's given us a really good outball. When McGregor, O'Reilly, Bernardo are looking up, Johnston, they're looking up, Maeda's always making himself available. He's going into the wee pockets of space. I think there was one moment where he's done that classic move with Alistair Johnson, and then he's let loose in that wee pocket of space behind the left back. He hits the byline, and then he zips it into Kyogo, and obviously Kyogo wasn't able to finish it. But that's the type of ball that Kyogo's been missing from both sides, from both wings. Cutting inside and lofting the ball into the box. It looks great, but the centre-halves are going to mop that up all day long. And Kyogo, it's not the type of ball the wee man needs. He needs that Maeda hitting the byline, cutting the ball back. On the other side, it's probably Taylor overlapping Palmer, hitting the byline, cutting the ball back. And Kyogo will find space because, even if the ball's played behind him, we've seen it, he's a lot sharper than his centre-half that's marking him. He'll find the space and he'll get in there, he'll get in front of them as well, and he will be a massive threat if that continues. The other players that I want to point out, Callum McGregor, I think he's played a real captain's part. He's orchestrated this game. Celtic have been on, as I said before, other than that wee spell after Welsh went off, they've been on the front foot all afternoon, and a massive part of that's McGregor. He's going back in, he's picking the ball up from his centre-halves, he's carrying the ball, which is brilliant. It's a talent that Liam Scales has got. He'll get the ball. Remember Big Aya used to love doing it. You would gallop for 30 or 40 yards, and you can turn defence into attack in doing that. It puts the opposition on the back foot. Their shape has to change. They've got to adapt to it. McGregor's been doing that today. and he's done it really, really well. He's been involved in a lot of our really tidy attack and play. And Alistair Johnston, I'm not sure if I subscribe to the fact that Johnston has simply been off form this season. He hasn't looked himself, but you've got to also look at the fact that he's had a stop-starts campaign. He's had a couple of injuries. He's not had that consistency in front of him to try and build a relationship with the right winger. He's not had that consistency, that regular partner in front of him. So I think today, so far, and I hope this continues, has been the best of Alistair Johnston. This is the AJ that we all fell in love with, the guy that never shucks a tackle. He can grab you by the scruff of the neck and drag you through a game of football. It's not turned into that for Celtic, has it, today? Celtic have been very good on the ball, confident, creative, ambitious, which is the word that Brendan Rodgers keeps using. And what do you think yourselves? The other two players I was going to mention here, in an attacking sense, we need to see more from Kyogo and Palmer. I think we've played a masterstroke. Brendan Rodgers has. He's played a masterstroke here. We talk about, every time we come into a game against Rangers, we talk about Tavernier. I don't think many people rate him as a defender. But what happens is he's a goal threat. He's a threat going forward. His distribution also. He takes all the free kicks. He's the guy. He's a go-to man at Rangers. And I think instead of nullifying the threat, which we talked about before the game, what Rodgers has done is decided to put Tavernier on his back foot. And Palmer, who's not a great defender, he doesn't have the defensive abilities. He's just running at him and running at him. Palmer's not a great game, don't get me wrong. But it's quite clear that the tactic is not to try and nullify the right back. It's just to attack him, put him on the back foot and make him uncomfortable because he's not a great defender. And I think that's what Brendan Rodgers has done. It's just a bit of a shame that Palmer's not been at his best today. This is, you've got to remember, Palmer's first appearance against Rangers. He didn't play in the game at Ibrox. This is his Glasgow Derby debut. So he might come into it in the second half. It can sometimes take a wee while for people to acclimatise to the frenzied nature of this game. And the other player I mentioned there, Kyogo, and I say attacking from an attacking sense because I think his work rate's been brilliant. We've seen 3 defensive headers in his own box, but we need to try and carve open this Rangers defence and get him into the positions that he's dangerous in as well. So yeah, a very, very good first half. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section, just like Stephen Sloan has. We're ahead, but we need AJ, Taylor and Maeda to have a better second half. Joe Hart is a bomb scare. Joe Hart has made 2 saves today, and this was during the period where we were under the cosh. We've gone into the game and we know that Carter Vickers is injured. So all week we're preparing for this game with Stephen Welsh playing at centre-half. All the drills, everything that we are preparing for going into this game is with Stephen Welsh at centre-half. 34 minutes into the game, he dislocates his shoulder. The whole thing goes up in the air. Nawrocki's then thrown into the action, not just for his debut against Rangers, but it's his first game in God knows how long. September, I think, was the last time we've seen him playing a game of football. In and out of the team, not Matt Sharp, sitting on the bench. And so the whole thing goes up in the air. And what you needed at that moment in time, I'm disagreeing with you here, Stephen. What you needed at that moment in time was Joe Hart to step up, and I think he did. He made 2 brilliant saves, one from McCausland, who looks pretty impressive in the first half, and one from Todd Cantwell. If he doesn't make these saves, it's a completely different discussion that we're having. So I think that's a wee bit harsh on Joe Hart. Let me know what you think in the comment section. It's all about debate. Come in, disagree, let us know why. The Kurgan, great first half, says the Kurgan on YouTube, but we have given them 2 golden opportunities. We have. And maybe I'm just looking for the positive spin on that because I think that those opportunities came as a knock-on effect of Stephen Welsh getting injured, and then the whole game plan for that 5-10 minute, it might not even have been 10 minutes, that period of time when Rangers started coming into the game a wee bit more, our passing got a wee bit sloppy. And I think that we just then had to settle back into a rhythm. But before the halftime whistle, I felt that we did that. So when we come out in the second half, I would be expecting us to get back to the first 40 minutes of that game, first half hour of that game, where I thought we were very, very impressive. Chancellor, can't think why, but Bernardo is beginning to grow on me. Bernardo's been the player of the first half. We were going into the 2 games against Livy and Dundee discussing whether or not he should stay at the football club. He hadn't played very much. He looked as though he was a specialist. You know, Brendan Rodgers would play him specifically for a role in a game like the Champions League. But then when we're playing maybe Ross County or a domestic side, he wouldn't be fancied. I know that he did play some domestic games, but he was largely used in Europe. And I can understand why. I think we've seen a performance from him today that's actually not in keeping with the identity that we saw him forming in the Champions League, where most of his good play was about defensive. I think offensively today we've seen a different side of him. He's had 3 chances. He scored possibly the hardest of the chances. It was a tremendous finish, absolutely brilliant finish. And how good was it to see the Celtic players going over to an off curve and for the Green Brigade to be in there in their droves and everybody celebrating that goal only for the referee to book you. And I know people will say, oh, everybody knows the rules, but God almighty, you score a goal in a football game and you're not allowed to celebrate. I thought for me, Paulo Bernardo was the best player in that first half. And I think that when that's happening, sometimes other players play within themselves and you'll just want them to come out and have a good performance himself. And I hope that Palmer is in that bracket. And I hope Matt O'Reilly, who's been the quietest of the 3 midfielders, I hope he's in that bracket as well. Stephen Sloan, McCausland is terrorising Taylor. I think McCausland is having a very good game. He looks like a decent prospect. I mean, am I right in saying that it was Clement that gave him his breakthrough at Rangers? I think that he's had a good game. Is he terrorising Taylor though? The left-hand side certainly isn't as free-flowing for Celtic as the right. I think that Johnston and Maeda have definitely nailed down the right-hand side. That's where our threat is coming from. If we're going to craft them open and craft a chance open for Kyogo, it's going to come down for the right based on the first 45. So I agree with that to a degree. I think Taylor's certainly been nullified. But I don't think as an attacking force, Rangers have actually shown that much. I don't remember us being pinned back. Even after the Welsh injury, I don't think we were pinned back. It was our own sloppy passing that gave them some chances. There was one occasion where it was just a simple clear from Butland and it went all the way through. We need to defend that a little bit better. But again, you've got to remember Scales and Nawrocki now have just been thrown together and they're going to have to be laser focused, which is obviously my go-to term these days, in the second 45 minutes because they're a new partnership. You then look at Scales. This is how quickly football turns on its head. Scales is a guy now that Nawrocki's looking at. Scales is the guy with the experience in that central defensive area for Celtic, with that understanding on the left-hand side with Taylor, with the understanding with Joe Hart, and he's going to then have to be the influential force over Nawrocki in the second half. I'm quite... Obviously, I'm not happy because of the circumstances, but I'm quite glad that we're getting a chance to see Nawrocki because you know what? Throw him in. And if you're going to be challenged and you come through this challenge today, then we might just have another player on our hands. I know we've all been disappointed with the summer transfer business. Palma seems to be the shining light at the moment. But, you know, even if Yang and Home are categorised as players for the future and we get another guy out of Nawrocki who can come in and contribute, then it makes the whole transfer window look a lot better. I want to make... I'm just bringing this up from the Kurgan. Listen, it's all about opinions. You think he's been solid as well. I would agree with that. I think he's been called upon on 2 occasions and he has made the saves. And what happens there is it builds that confidence in what is now a new central defensive partnership. And I think the other thing I want to mention in the last minute before we go back to the action is Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers has had loads of stick since he came back to Celtic, but not just because of the manner in which he left first time round. He's been given stick because of the poor performances on the park, the poor results, back-to-back defeats in the league for the first time in almost 11 years. These are things that have got nothing to do with a preconceived perception of Brendan Rodgers, the man or the manager. It's based on the performances. And before we went into the game today, one of the big points I said that was a positive, that was making me feel a wee bit more confident, was the fact that Rodgers has got a brilliant record in these games, never lost a Glasgow derby at Celtic Park. He's got a fantastic record. He's come up against a few managers. This is the first time he's come up against Clement. And I think that there's an old wiliness about Brendan Rodgers. For example, he started preparing for this game 180 minutes ago when he started playing Paulo Bernardo against Livingston. And what's happened is Bernardo's been the player of the first half. Don't write off Brendan Rodgers is the message. We're going back to the second half action. Please join me at full time. 1,100 strong at half time. The mood is good. Celtic have been dominant in that first half. Let's keep it going. And hopefully we'll see a bit of a Abada and a bit of Hatate maybe on the 65th minute mark as well. Join me at full time for a Celtic state of mind.